Hi folks, welcome to this video on leadership, again part of the A-level sports psychology topics or unit. Similar to the groups one, if you've already watched this, I'm going to deal with all aspects of leadership in one video, so please feel free to fast forward and just play the bits that you need to, or you can watch it all to go through all the areas that we've looked at or that we're going to look at in terms of leadership. Firstly, things that could come up, what are the characteristics of good leaders? Now, this is a fairly straightforward question if it was to come up, which is why they'll sometimes say, can you provide 5 characteristics for 3 marks? So they'll always make you do a little bit more on this. But what I'll just jot down now are just some common characteristics of good leaders. So any of those are good characteristics of good leaders, and it's common sense stuff. Good communicator, people who take responsibility, they set good examples, they're a role model to other people, they're very approachable, highly experienced, highly respected, and good tactical and technical knowledge. They're individual characteristics that will pick up marks for you if ever asked about the characteristics of good leaders. Okay? Within that, then, you could get asked about each of these. What are the two, not styles, but the two, I suppose, types of leadership? Okay, and we've got prescribed and we've got emergent, and again, they're fairly straightforward. So prescribed leaders, just as you're prescribed medication on a prescription, a prescribed leader is someone who is given the captaincy by an external organisation, such as a governing body. They decide that from now on, you will be our captain, you will be our leader. Whereas as you'd expect, an emergent leader, someone who emerges from the group. So the group elects this person. They're wanted by the rest of the team to be their leader or be their captain. So there isn't one that's preferred, one that's better than the other. They're just the two ways that someone can become a leader of a group. Okay, so moving on from that, there are 3 theories of leadership. I know 2 of them are only on the screen at the minute, but I'll come to the third one in a second. There are 3 main theories of leadership styles: trait theory, social learning theory, and Chelladurai Continuum, which is the one that we're going to look at in a second. Trait theory, if you want to think of this in one way, think of it like this. A leader who follows trait theory, they are genetically a leader. They have those natural characteristics that good leadership requires. Natural communicator, naturally lead by example. It's that old thing of nature. Okay, they were just born with strong leadership characteristics. Okay, in contrast to that, we've then got social learning theory. So that's someone who, Bandura's social learning theory, observation. You learn to be a leader through, and as well as I've forgotten a H there, good spelling that, through observation or nurture. So, if you want to sum it up 2 ways, it's nature versus nurture. You can either be born a leader, nature, or you can learn to become one through nurture. Prime example of nurture, David Beckham, he wasn't, if you think back to when he first started playing for Manchester United, everyone was slagging him off his squeaky voice, didn't really say anything, had his head down all the time. Captains Man U, captains England, I think he captained PSG, did he a couple of times. He's someone who learned to be a leader through watching some of the best. He was playing at Manchester United under likes of Brian Robson, Eric Cantona, Roy Keane. So he's obviously watched their leadership style and copied it via social learning theory. So he wasn't one that, had high levels of trait theory in terms of leadership. It wasn't natural to him to be a leader, but he was nurtured by watching others and copying their styles. So the third style strikes fear into the hearts as soon as you see these words. Don't panic, it's common sense. Chelladurai Continuum of leadership. Okay, Chelladurai said you're not just one style of leader. You can be generally one of 3, and because they exist on a continuum like this, you pick which one you want to be depending on the situation that you are in. Okay, so let's just have a look at the types of situations where you would use each leadership style. So autocratic then, it's command style of teaching or coaching. You, the leader, makes the decisions. Common sense, when are you going to use that leadership style? When you're working with beginners, when you've got high levels of danger in the task, when you're very short for time, and when the group are hostile. So, you're going to be an I say you do kind of leader when those situations are dominant, okay? So democratic is where we've got decision making shared with the group. We're living in a democracy, okay? You're only going to do that, i.e. ask your group's opinions on what you think we should do, if your group are experienced. You've got high levels of experience within that group, they know what they're doing, and you've also got good relationships. I can trust that you're going to give me an honest answer when I ask you a question, okay? So that's when you'd use a more democratic approach to leadership. And finally then, laissez-faire. You give the entire decision making over to your group, okay? So you might come in and go, right, today we're looking at shooting. There's a bag of balls, there's some bibs, there's some cones, off you go, right? So the group has then got to solve their own problem, like which drills are we going to do, what are we going to focus on, okay? You then act as more of a consultant than you do a coach or a manager or something like that. But the big downside to this, as well as it being seen as a dereliction of duty, as we've put in there in inverted commas, but there can be a lot of wastage if the group muck around and start arguing over who should be doing what, and I think we should be doing this drill, what I think we should better do this one. You can lose a lot of time. So you've really got to trust your group to be able to get on with this. It is a good method though to see who your natural leaders are within the group. Let's say you're having a debate over who to make captain. If you give them a laissez-faire style activity to do, you can see who stands out and who do the others follow. So it's a good way to potentially spot your emergent leaders, okay? Fiedler, in contrast to Chelladurai, said, actually, I only believe there's only two styles of leadership, okay, that you can choose from. But it is quite similar to Chelladurai. So let's just have a quick look at this. So Fiedler said you're either task-centred or person-centred, okay? I.e. your leadership style is either focused purely on the task, the victory, the win, the 3 points, the trophy, whatever it is, or it's on the people within your group, okay? And again, you're going to pick and choose the right leadership style dependent on the situation. Now, the thing they like to use is this term here. This idea of a favourable situation, i.e. what is it about the situation that's going to make you favour that style of delivery or that style of delivery. So what is the favourableness of the situation? So let's quickly go through that now. Now what you're going to read here is something very similar to what we've just looked at, and that's exactly the point. Task-centred. Fiedler is another way of saying autocratic for Chelladurai. Okay, you are going to use your task-centred approach. You are going to be all about the result, either when things are going really well or really badly. Now that might seem a bit daft at the minute, but badly, yeah, fairly obvious. If things are going badly, you need to be telling people what to do. You need to be getting them to work harder. But why when things are going well? That classic situation of you don't want to take your eye off the ball. You're 6 points ahead with 3 games to go. Okay, you don't want to let it go down to the last minute, the last game. You want to get over that finish line now, win the title, win the league, job done. So you need your leader to be fairly autocratic, fairly task-centred with you until it's in the bag, okay? You're also going to be task-centred in order to establish clear goals, what you need to be doing. But again, when there's high levels of danger, when you're short for time, that is going to also lead you to show a more task-centred style of leadership. So when you're going to go person-centred, well, as you'd expect, person-centred is similar to the democratic approach that Chelladurai mentioned earlier. You're going to use person-centred when you've got good cohesion in your group. You're getting on well, you all know each other, there's good relationships. When things are going moderately well, i.e. we're not at risk of getting relegated or getting knocked out in the first round or something like that, but equally we're not realistically going to win the league or we're going to win the cup or something like that, but things are going moderately well. Again, you're going to use it when you've got experienced group members. Also when you've got a smaller group. Now I've got the time in a smaller group to go around and ask people's opinions. So I can be more person-centred. But obviously that's only going to work if I value those opinions. If I'm the leader, I need to value the opinions of the group. And that is again going to make me want to use the more person-centred approach. So if anything comes up on Fiedler and they talk about the favourableness of the situation, it basically means in which situation would you prefer to use task or person-centred style of leadership. Finally then, on this leadership topic, we've got the one that strikes fear into the hearts of everyone when they see this Chelladurai multi-dimensional model. Why? Because it's got boxes and arrows going here, there and everywhere. relax on this question. Calm down, take your time. It's generally only asking about one particular thing, okay? And that one particular thing is that how do I get my group to have the highest performance and the greatest level of satisfaction, okay? No matter how they word the question. We've had ones in the past looking at how can you use this model to achieve optimal arousal? Well, optimal arousal, remember, means you're playing at your best. So you're getting the best performance and you're getting the highest level of satisfaction. So, don't panic when they do this. What we've got to do on this diagram is get a definition of each of these boxes and then just explain what it's showing to us. So that's what we're going to do first. Well, firstly, antecedents, factors, basically. When we're in a group situation, there are three factors we need to be aware of. The characteristics of the situation. Is this a cup final? Is it a league decider? Is it a friendly match? Okay. What are the characteristics of our leaders? Okay, what are their dominant traits? And finally, what are the characteristics of the members of our group? That's what we've got to take into consideration. Now, what these arrows are all showing, going this, that, and everything else, is the leader has got to behave in the correct way in order to get the highest levels of performance and satisfaction. So here are the classic answers to a question on this topic. Now, bear with me on this. It looks a bit complicated. It's not. My rule on this one is follow the horizontal arrows and ignore the diagonal ones. So we're following that arrow there, that arrow there, and that arrow there. Okay? Look at this first point here. The leader's behaviour should be in a manner required by the situation, i.e. the leader's behaviour should be that is required by the situation. If this is a big game, the leader needs to step up and be commanding and be demanding. Okay? If it's a game where your team is full of experienced players, the leader just needs to let you crack on and do what you need to do. So that they need to act in a manner that is required by the situation. Secondly, leaders' behaviour should be how they actually behave towards the performer, i.e. your leader's got their very own characteristics. You will get the highest performance and satisfaction if they behave how they actually should, based on their characteristics. If your leader is naturally very mouthy and likes to shout a lot, then that's what we want them to do. That's probably why they've been elected and selected to be the leadership. We don't want them to be quiet. Equally, if my leader is someone who is quite quiet but leads by example, if they start shouting and mouthing, it's going to come across as a bit false. So their actual behaviour should be based on their actual characteristics. Okay, don't try and be false is a kind of basic way of saying that. And finally, the leader's behaviour should be in a way that is preferred by the group members. Exactly right. Your leader's behaviour should be in a manner that is preferred by the members of the group. So you're just linking the horizontal boxes together. How should the leader behave based on these three factors? Ignore the diagonal ones, don't worry about that. What happens if we get that? Well, let's move that to one side. Well, that's hopefully the result. Having all three behaviours matching, the greater the chance of high performance, high satisfaction, and optimal arousal. So should you ever get a question on this, you just follow the horizontal arrows. How should your leader behave based on those three factors? And it's fairly common sense if you just view it from that point of view. Hope you found this video useful, folks.